They say Kentucky is a land of rolling hills and old country roads where forests whisper with age-old secrets. But every so often, those whispers turn into screams, sudden encounters that can send a chill straight through your bones. 3 tales, each more unsettling than the last. Welcome to Kentucky's hidden underbelly, where the line between folklore and flesh and blood terror might be thinner than we'd ever dare imagine. Welcome to Weird Encounters, a place where the ordinary fades into shadow and the unexplainable comes alive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and become part of our ever-growing community of the curious. Now prepare yourself, because what you are about to hear is not for the faint of heart. This is about something I found in Kentucky's Clarks River National Wildlife Refuge, something that's shaken me to the core. I'm a hunter by trade, and I've seen a lot in those woods, but nothing like this. I know most of us who hunt or fish out near Benton have a story or two, but I never believed I'd be the one sending something like this. I was out at the Clarks River National Wildlife Refuge, late afternoon, well before sundown, because I wanted to spot deer near the water. The day felt wrong from the start, but I figured it was just me being jumpy. There had been rumors about strange noises at night and gutted animals found in weird places, but I tried not to let that get to me. I took my usual path through a section that's not heavily traveled, hoping for a clean shot at a buck. Right away, I noticed a foul smell. Rotting flesh, like when you find a carcass that's been baking in the sun too long. It made my eyes water. My first thought was maybe someone poached a deer and left it to spoil, so I decided to check it out. But as I got closer, I realized it wasn't just one carcass. It was a pile of animal remains. Deer legs, bones, some looked like they might be dogs, even a few skulls that were too small to be deer. I felt sick. That's when I heard rustling behind a thick copse of trees. I froze, heart pounding. Maybe it was just a scavenger, but the hair on my arm stood on end. I inched forward, regretting it with every step. My boots kept crunching leaves, giving away my position. Then I saw something move, a pale shape hunched low, blending in with the trunk of a dying oak tree. It was hairless, or the hair was so thin I couldn't see it from where I stood. This thing had spindly limbs and big, round eyes that glinted in the fading light. My mouth went dry. I'd never seen anything remotely like that in any creature guide. Suddenly, a branch snapped. I glanced to my left and I saw 2 men standing there, didn't recognize them as locals. They wore dark, mud-stained clothes, and they both held shotguns. They didn't say much, but they were watching me. I got the feeling they weren't out there for a normal hunt. It was more like they were guarding something, making sure no one stumbled too close. I could sense tension rolling off them. I tried to casually step away, but one of them gave a short whistle, and I'll never forget what happened next. That pale creature bolted upright, let out a shrill hiss that still rings in my nightmares, and disappeared into the brush. The men glanced at me, then at each other, like they were deciding whether to let me leave. My gut told me to run, but I couldn't move. My mind was screaming at me to do something, but my feet were stuck. Finally, they just turned around and walked off in the direction the creature had gone, as if following it. My senses kicked back in, and I decided I needed proof of what I'd seen. I approached that pile of remains again, and I nearly threw up when I realized some of the bones looked suspiciously human, like smaller femurs and a skull that looked way too much like a person's. That was enough. I snapped a couple of photos, hands shaking, then got the hell out of there. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might burst. The entire way back, I kept expecting those men or that thing to jump out from behind a tree. When I finally got to my truck, I locked the doors and sped off. I wanted to call the sheriff or maybe even a game warden, but I was so shaken I couldn't think straight. By the time I got home, I found scratches down the side of my truck I couldn't explain. I don't know if they were from branches or if something else dragged its claws across it. The photos on my phone came out blurry. Figures, right? But you can still make out the shapes of scattered bones. It's enough proof for me. I talked to a friend who works part-time in law enforcement, hoping he'd have answers. He got real quiet and told me not to go back there alone. He said there are stories circulating about a secret group out in those woods, worshiping or studying strange creatures. He didn't know if it was rumor or truth, but it messed me up to think those two men might be part of it. The idea that they could be feeding something out there, something that might include human remains, makes me sick. Now, I'm sleeping with a loaded rifle by my bed. Every bump in the night jolts me awake, and I can't get those wide, empty eyes out of my head. I've hunted around Kentucky my whole life and never experienced fear like that. People can dismiss this if they want, but something is happening in Clark's River. If you go out there, be careful. Not everything in those woods is just deer and foxes, and some people might be more dangerous than any wild animal. My name's probably not important, but I've been an avid camper for years, done it all across Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Never in my wildest nightmares did I think I'd witness something that would make me question everything I know about these woods. This is not just another spooky campfire tale. It's what really happened to me and my buddy when we decided to spend a night near the wilderness trails. I've camped around the Cumberland Gap a bunch of times, usually near the more popular spots like the Pinnacle Overlook, but this time we decided to try a secluded area off the Ridge Trail. Figured it'd be quieter, maybe see some wildlife. It was already late afternoon when we set up camp, and things felt strange right away. There was this absolute stillness, like even the birds didn't want to sing. We brushed it off, thinking maybe a storm was rolling in or something. That night, around midnight, we started hearing soft rustling in the underbrush. I thought maybe it was a raccoon or a possum. Then the rustling turned into snapping twigs, like something much heavier was walking around. I poked my head out of the tent, shining my flashlight, expecting maybe a black bear, but instead the light caught a pair of eyes, large and kind of yellowish, but spaced in this creepy way that didn't look right. The eyes vanished before I could get a good look, but my gut was doing somersaults. My buddy whispered that he thought he saw a tall figure move behind a cluster of trees. We both grabbed our flashlights and followed the noise. Probably a dumb move in hindsight. We ended up stumbling onto this weird clearing. The trees were arranged so that the moonlight lit the ground just enough to see that something had been there. We found these large footprints, definitely bigger than mine, with what looked like claw marks at the toes. Each print must have been at least 1.5 feet long. I was so focused on the prints that I nearly missed seeing something else, a shredded deer carcass, half buried beneath pine needles. The smell was rancid. Part of me wanted to run, but my legs felt like they were filled with cement. Suddenly, we heard this low growl, deeper than anything I've heard in the woods before. It sent a chill up my spine. That's when we saw it step into the moonlight, tall and lanky, covered in patches of matted fur, almost looking like a giant wolf walking on 2 legs. Its mouth hung open, revealing rows of teeth that looked far too long. My buddy yanked on my arm, and we both bolted. I could hear branches snapping behind us, as if it was giving chase. I swear I felt hot breath on my neck for a split second. When we got back to our campsite, I realized something or someone had ripped open my backpack. The tent was slashed, like sharp claws had torn through it. We didn't waste another second, just grabbed whatever we could and ran for the truck. We drove out of there so fast, I'm not even sure we followed the right trail back to the main road. The entire drive home, we barely spoke. It was like the fear wouldn't let us form words. I still can't sleep without waking up in a cold sweat. I keep checking local reports to see if anyone else has witnessed something similar. Sometimes I find posts about tall, wolf-like creatures spotted in remote corners of the park, but no one seems to have a solid explanation. I'm writing this so that if anyone else decides to camp off the beaten path at Cumberland Gap, they'll know there's something out there that goes beyond normal wildlife. And it's not shy about showing up unannounced. I may never go camping there again. It's hard to admit, but I'm terrified just thinking about those eyes and that guttural growl. People can dismiss this as a wild story if they want, but I know what I saw, and I can't forget it. Some things defy explanation, and the Cumberland Gap might hide secrets in its deep hollows. For anyone brave enough to venture into the remote trails after sundown, just remember, not all wilderness sounds come from animals we've learned to expect. I was out on a late shift near the Blue Heron Overlook, right outside the old mining camp. I'm used to wandering around these trails in the dark, and most nights it's peaceful. You'll hear crickets, maybe an owl or two, and now and then a raccoon rustling in the bushes. But that night was so quiet it felt wrong. Not a single bug or bird made a sound. The air even tasted stale, like it was trying to warn me to get the heck out of there. Around midnight, I caught a whiff of this really awful smell, like a mix of wet dog and rotten eggs. At first, I figured maybe there was a dead animal nearby, so I followed the scent a bit. It led me off the main trail, down a slope towards some thick brush where we almost never go. It was so dark, my flashlight barely cut through the shadows. I kept thinking of that old local legend some folks whisper about, a big wolf-like thing people around here call the Dogman. I always shrugged off those stories. I mean, I've run into black bears plenty of times, even bobcats, but I never believed in cryptids. Suddenly, I heard this deep growl. Not like a bear, more like a guttural snarl that shot up my spine and made every hair on my body stand straight. It sounded almost human, yet twisted somehow. My pulse hammered. I turned my flashlight around, scanning the trees, and something darted behind a tall pine about 30 yards away. It moved so fast that all I caught was a blur. I should have backed out right then, but I kept creeping forward. My curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to see what it was. Then I noticed footprints in the soft dirt near the base of a fallen log. They were huge, bigger than my hand, and looked sort of like canine prints, but stretched like the creature's toes were too long. I leaned in to take a photo, but my phone started acting up, freezing and flickering. That's when I heard a snap to my left, like a thick branch cracking under heavy weight. Without warning, this towering figure stepped out. Even in the dim beam of my flashlight, I could see it was at least 7 feet tall, covered in patches of matted fur. Its eyes caught the light and glowed a sickly yellow, like it was reflecting back at me. My breath got stuck in my throat. Then, in a split second, it bolted straight at me with a speed that didn't even seem possible for something that big. I stumbled backward, trying not to fall, and I nearly lost my flashlight. My instinct was to run, but something told me if I turned my back, I wouldn't survive. So I inched away, heart racing, shining the light in its face. It let out this shriek-like roar that still haunts me. I swear the ground vibrated with the sound. That's when I panicked. I spun around and sprinted as hard as I could, hoping to find my truck. I must have tripped 3 or 4 times on the way up that slope. At one point, I swear I felt hot breath on the back of my neck. I ducked behind a tree for a second, shaking like a leaf, my hands all scraped up from falling. The forest was pitch black, except for my flashlight beam that kept bouncing around. I heard snarls and branches snapping. Whatever was chasing me sounded massive. I thought that was it for me, that I'd end up as some missing person story no one could explain. Somehow, I stumbled onto the main trail that leads back toward the parking area near the abandoned railroad tracks. My truck was maybe a football field's length away. Every step felt like I was slogging through mud. The snarling got closer, and there was this low huffing, almost like panting. I could sense it behind me. I forced myself to run faster than I ever have in my life. By some miracle, I reached the truck, yanked the door open, and jumped in, slammed it shut and locked it in one smooth motion. I was fumbling the keys so bad I dropped them on the floor. As I leaned down to grab them, I heard something slam against the side of the truck, hard enough to rock it. My heart was thudding so loud I thought it might burst. I managed to start the engine, and in the glow of my headlights, I saw it for a split second. A hulking silhouette, eyes glaring like two burning coals. Then it vanished into the darkness. I tore out of there, tires squealing on the gravel. Even after I got onto the paved road, I kept checking my mirrors, half expecting it to be right behind me. The next day, I tried talking to a fellow ranger about it, but he clammed up. He mumbled something like, "You're not the first," and walked away. Later, another co-worker hinted that I should keep what happened to myself. People might think I'm crazy, or it might stir up trouble. That's when I realized that some of the stories around this park probably aren't just tall tales. There might be a reason folks don't talk. Maybe some official orders or just plain fear. Even now, I can't stop thinking about how close that thing was to grabbing me. If I'd slipped one more time or dropped my keys again, I honestly don't think I'd be here typing this. My nights are full of nightmares. I wake up sweating, my ears still ringing with that unearthly growl. I don't know if it's one creature or several, but it's out there, lurking in the thick forests of the Big South Fork. If you ever visit, stay on the main trails and don't push your luck after dark. Believe me, some legends have teeth, and they bite harder than you can imagine. I just thought someone ought to know that this place holds secrets none of us can fully understand or control. If you ever hear that low growl in the dead of night, run. Don't even look back. I'm still recovering from the terror of that encounter, trying to make sense of it all. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that sometimes you're better off not knowing what lurks beyond the tree line. And so, another strange encounter fades away. A trick of the mind, or something far more unsettling. That's for you to decide. Thank you so much for watching my stories. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support is what keeps this channel going.